Welcome to a new round of Future Hamburg Talks on hydrogen. My name is Heinrich Klingberg. Due to the corona situation, this talk is going to be in a virtual room. The more I am happy to welcome today Senator Michael Westhagemann. He's the Senator for Economic Affairs in Hamburg, and Jan Rispens, Managing Director of Renewable Energy Hamburg Cluster Agency. Welcome, Michael and Jan. I'll start with a question for a beginning with the Senator. Michael, Hamburg is certainly one of the cities and region with the highest level of expertise and a strong commitment to hydrogen in Europe. As a senator, and I know you for a while, you are a strong and long-time promoter for this technology. Why is it that you think that hydrogen is such an important topic for Hamburg, and what advantage do you see and expect from this strategic focus?
Yeah, everybody knows the biggest challenge what we see is climate change, and to find the right answer to what we have to do now and also in the future is the question: what is the best technology to give the answer to reduce CO2 emission? And what I believe is the answer is green hydrogen. Why it is so? Green hydrogen brings us in the situation where we can reduce CO2 emission, especially in the sector, of course, in the industrial sector, but also in many other sectors, for example, mobility, and of course, in other sectors. And I believe we have really a good situation with our harbor. Our harbor is in the middle of our city, and the challenge is how we can reduce CO2 emission, and the answer is we will use green hydrogen.
Mm-hmm. So is my understanding right that you say we have really strong objectives in terms of CO2 reduction, but besides that, we have a perfect situation with hydrogen that it also gives us benefits and added value for the economy? So it's both the aspects.
They're both. And I believe the situation in Hamburg, but also in the north part of Germany, we call it, we have a very strong situation where we are one of the regions where we have enough renewable energies. So that gives the answer why it is so strong in the north part. And we have to use this, of course, not only in Hamburg, also in the north part of Germany.
Yeah. So then this is probably a perfect chance for Jan to explain. He's in charge for the renewable energies cluster. And certainly there's a lot of synergies between this renewable cluster sector, as Michael was saying, and hydrogen, for example, for storage, for surplusing. Jan, could you please elaborate a bit more on what's the connection between these two topics?
Yes, well, what we have seen is that our members in and around Hamburg have increasingly started in the last year to work on hydrogen projects. What we have seen is that there is a lot of excess electricity, green electricity produced in Schleswig-Holstein and in the area around Hamburg, and some of that electricity cannot be transported to the south of Germany. So we lose quite a lot of electricity at the moment, around 10% in Schleswig-Holstein, and a lot of our member companies are working on concepts to do something useful with that green electricity, and quite a lot of companies have started working on producing green hydrogen with that green electricity. So that is one development that we have seen amongst our members. The second development that we see in and around Hamburg is, of course, that we have in the industrial companies that have to decarbonize. They are looking for ways to do that, and actually probably they have no alternative to use hydrogen for that. And at the same time, we have a very strong logistics sector over here. So there's a lot of trucks for long distance hauling, and for truck there are no a lot of alternatives to hydrogen either, because you cannot operate a battery fueled truck. And then that's where developments come together. So on the one hand, we have the electricity sector with a lot of green energy producers starting to work on hydrogen concepts. On the other hand, we have the industrial sector and the logistics sector working on concepts for decarbonization, and they meet in the middle. And I think that's where we come in, and we intend to connect both sectors with each other so that we have a full green hydrogen economy developing in the next decade. And increasingly, we think also that the markets will connect, that the energy markets, the electricity sector, the fuel sector, they will also connect because the CO2 prices will be introduced and things like that. So we see an increasing connection between the different energy sectors that are important for decarbonization.
Mm-hmm. And Jan, due to the initiative of the senator and also a couple of his colleagues in the other northern German countries, we have a strategic hydrogen alliance, a network that is already in place, let's say for 1.5 years now. And on top of that, we have that very successful renewable energies cluster that you are leading, which has been operative for quite a while now. And as you mentioned, they can perfectly work together, both of them. Besides the benefits, you have now started to bring them together. What was the resonance of the people of both the networks? Are they happy to cooperate? Do they see the synergies?
Absolutely. We know from our members last year they told us, well, hydrogen is our most important strategic potential. So that is what our 200 members have told us last year. And we also know from many companies from the industrial sector and from the logistics sector that they are also looking for a platform to combine different activities and to find synergy. So I think there is a very positive resonance, and I also believe that it has been very important that the 5 coastal German states, they have started a very strong lobby and political initiative to develop a green hydrogen policy in the north, because in our region in the north we have all the wind power onshore and offshore, we have excess electricity, so this is the region where we should really start building up a hydrogen economy.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the hydrogen economy, Michael, you have been always very much on the side in saying we need to really give an economic benefit. We really have to bring that in the different sectors within the northern German hydrogen strategy, but specifically for Hamburg also. Could you probably give us some examples of sectors where we will use hydrogen in the future, and what is the situation there today? Like, for example, in the industry or mobility, or what other sectors do we have with hydrogen already?
Yeah, first of all, what we need is to offer green hydrogen. And there was one idea from my side to say, oh, we need some electrolyzer also in our harbor. That is still on the way now, where we can produce, for example, 100 megawatt green hydrogen. The question is then, on the other hand, have we enough companies that will use green hydrogen? And this situation in Hamburg is perfect. Most of the companies, for example, steel companies, are using in the future green hydrogen. And that was the start point for us to say how many companies we will find in our harbor that will use in the future green hydrogen. What we need is also, on the other hand, the regulation for this new market. And that is also the question to our government in Berlin, bring us the right regulation, what we need for this market. But I believe we are on the good way, also with our government, to see the high potential of green hydrogen. And this comes on to the end, that we have the answer of to reducing CO2 emission. And this is why I believe we have a strong position in Hamburg, but also in the north part of Germany, And you know, with my colleagues, I'm very strong in our communication, so that we hopefully develop a strong market in the north part of Germany.
Yeah. So before we come probably to the specific question of the port in Hamburg, Jan, back to the network. So I understand within the renewable energies cluster there are some 250 companies, and science is involved, research people are there. And besides that, we have the hydrogen network that you really combine now in a perfect way with also, let's say, 200 people. So we really have a very strong cluster here. The main task, I understand, would be, as Michael said, to bring together demand, but also to act jointly to realize a political framework that could be helpful for the setup of a self-sustaining hydrogen economy. Is that the understanding, or what are the other topics of the network?
Yes, I think your understanding is pretty much correct. First of all, I think a cluster is a so-called soft factor, a soft strategic factor. So we bring back together companies, people, ideas, and money, and I think that has shown very successful in the last decade in the field of wind power and renewables. A cluster has an important role in that it brings people together, researchers, companies, and together they develop new ideas and market potential. So that is one thing. I think the second thing is that, of course, that the industry has certain political needs. And as a cluster, we are capable to formulate that needs. We know that for green hydrogen production, the green electricity that we have to use today is still very expensive. Mm-hmm. So we have to work together with the coastal states in Germany. We have to work on the political situation in Berlin, that the surcharges and the levies and the taxes on green electricity are reduced so that it becomes more economic. So I think lobby work is also one important mm-hmm. aspect of our work. Last not least, we're also talking about people. We have to build up a new sector. We have to generate new know-how. We have to operate hydrogen infrastructure in a safe and structural manner. So we need well-educated people, engineers, but also more practical people. So that is also something a cluster organization can do. And last not least, research. We're still talking about a phase where we have to scale up the electrolyzer scene. Today we are in the range somewhere between 1 and 10 megawatt for most electrolyzers. The next step will be to get to a scale for maybe 100 or a couple of 100 megawatt electrolyzers to bring the cost down.
So if we reflect for a moment, as Michael was saying, as a senator, he's very much taking care that we have a constant demand, which is a perfect prerequisite. And on the other hand, you were saying that we have a network of companies that are really interested, that are really going forward for the hydrogen economy. But I would believe there's a third point, a third positive effect that we have in the city of Hamburg, and that has been briefly mentioned by Michael already, that is the production. So could you probably tell us a bit more about the plans for, Michael, for the energy hub that we are having in the harbor, and why do you believe that, let's say, an energy hub with really a direct connection between the demand and the production side is probably something unique that we do not find somewhere else?
Yeah. Before I give you the answer, we have to remember why Hamburg is so strong. If we start with the wind industry in the north part of Germany, especially in Hamburg, we have the same situation. If it brings to the question how we can develop a market for wind industry. Moorburg, everybody remembers, that was Vattenfall. There was a line, the 380 kilowatt line, that is a direct connection between Moorburg, or our harbor, to Brunsbüttel. Brunsbüttel is a small city near the offshore wind farms, And this is really perfect to go from the offshore wind park directly to our harbor, so that we have the transportation from green energy. And then we want to install a 100 megawatt electrolyzer so that we can produce green hydrogen in the middle in our harbor. And we call it now green hydrogen hub.
Yeah. And is my understanding right that you have within this green energy hub in the harbor, this is not all about the harbor itself, but also the harbor being one of the biggest industrial areas across Europe?
That is really a good situation for us, especially what you say before, that we have the biggest industrial area in Europe, where we can show with a lot of examples how we can use green hydrogen to go in this way, that we can say, oh, this is the right way for decarbonization. And we can show, or we make a showcase for everybody who can see later, oh, that is the right way. And that is perfectly for us. And this is why I believe that is a really great opportunity for us, especially in our harbor, to show also the rest in Europe how we can use green hydrogen.
So Jan, I know you've been very well around the world. You are very well connected, for example, to Japan or to other areas across Europe. And I do believe that in all these areas, you see that hydrogen has become a very important future technology. So if you compare other regions to Hamburg, what would you see? Where could we place Hamburg today, and what are probably our relevant unique selling propositions there? What is specific for Hamburg compared to others?
Yeah, I think two things are most important maybe. I think first of all, we have the green electricity over here, and we have an excess amount of it. So because we have so much wind power in the north of Germany, we have 7 gigawatts of offshore wind power. Due to the grid situation, we cannot transport all the electricity to the rest of Germany. So we have the situation in Germany that is very favorable. We have a lot of green electricity that we can and we should use for hydrogen production. So that is the first thing maybe. And I think there are not many worldwide regions where this is the case. So we have a very well established infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, gas infrastructure. At the same time, we have all this green electricity. So that's one thing. And I think the second thing is that on a technology level, I believe Germany and also the north of Germany is very much in a front position with the technology development. To international, the international development, of course, I believe there are countries where we can learn from, especially in the field of the transportation of hydrogen. You mentioned Japan. I think they have done a lot of work on the transportation of hydrogen, and we can learn from that. And luckily, Hamburg is a partner city of Osaka, and there is a very good connection between those Japan companies and cities and the city of Hamburg, so we can learn from them. But what I want to repeat is in our cluster, what we see right now is, and that is our focus in the cluster also. The first step will be to develop 100 megawatt or more capacity of electrolyzers over here. We need to do that to get the experience, to scale up, to bring the cost down. And in our cluster, of course, we also see the potential for later time when the demand for hydrogen will be really big. Maybe in 10, 15, 20 years, I'm quite sure that we cannot produce all the hydrogen we need in Germany. And that is the time, of course, when a port town like Hamburg is also very well positioned and should start think now how to import hydrogen. And we are in contact with the city of Hamburg and quite some countries who are very much interested in exporting hydrogen to the north of Germany. So that's why I think it is a very good step to think about the project in Moorburg, not only for producing hydrogen on site, but also for importing hydrogen and to connect that with a hydrogen gas grid. And I think that is the overall setting. So in the short term, we're mainly talking about producing hydrogen ourselves. In the longer term, we're talking about developing an import structure. And I see quite a lot of companies or quite a lot of countries interested in exporting hydrogen to Germany and to North Germany. Yes, and the market, in the end, the market will decide who has.
Yeah. Michael has illustrated very nicely that we are going to set up a short distance hydrogen ecosystem. So everything in one place, which makes it kind of an ideal example for other areas where you really have the demand, you have the production, you have all the industry in place already there, you have the mobility in place there, you can add, besides the production, you can add import. So it's really a perfect ecosystem that we are going to set up here. Probably, Michael, when it comes to the question of what is missing, then we come back, Jan has that mentioned very briefly, then we come back to the levies and let's say the legal and tax-wise the framework we are having here. On the political side, what's the situation here? I know you're working on that. Could you probably briefly explain what the next steps will be?
Yeah, important is, Heinrich, what you say before. We want to develop a hydrogen economy. Simple the same way what we have done before with the wind industry. There was the same question, how fast we can develop the economy for the wind industry. And now we go the same way for the hydrogen economy. And the question is also the same, what we have before also in the wind industry. Have we the right regulation in place? The answer was no. And this is the same situation what we have just now also by hydrogen. The political area in Berlin, everybody knows also in Berlin, that is now also a really a good opportunity, not only for Hamburg or the north part of Germany. It is really a very big chance for Germany, so that they have to bring this regulation where the industry can say, oh, with this price, forget green hydrogen, that is for me okay. Why we have to see that our industry, if they are using green hydrogen, that is not too expensive for them. Why everybody knows we need also a right business case for everybody. So I think that are the next steps in the discussion with our government in Berlin.
Yeah. So besides constant demand, which is always helpful in terms of economies of scale, I'm very much in line with what you are saying. We have to discuss, for example, the levies, which need to be reduced necessarily. And as anyhow, if we use green energy, we reduce the amount of costs according to the Renewable Energies Act. So therefore that should be legitimate to do so. So I come back to what you were saying on the open mind that we have characteristically always had in Hamburg. And I'm happy to see that we have that also in the hydrogen economy. Thanks, Michael, to you, and thanks to Jan. Thanks for today, and I'm very glad to discuss hydrogen in the future and see the progress we are making here. Thanks for today. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.